Jeffrey Herlings, born September 12, 1994, in the Netherlands, a name that has become synonymous with excellence in the world of motocross. Since his debut in 2010, he has evolved into one of the most successful and respected riders in the history of the sport, with an unmatched track record and a character that has never given up. He has turned the motocross world on his head. Chapter 1: Youth and Early Dominance. The year was 2008. Jeffrey Herlings was just 14 years old when he first announced his arrival on the global stage. At an age when most teenagers were worried about school exams, Herlings was conquering the world. He won the 85cc FIM Junior Motocross World Championship and the European title in the same class. This wasn't beginner's luck, this was the birth of a legend. The following year, still just 15, he finished second in the European 250cc class and third in the Dutch MX2 Open Championship. The international motorsport world was starting to take notice. Here was a young Dutch rider with something special, a combination of raw speed, tactical intelligence and an unshakable determination that would define his entire career. Chapter 2: The MX2 Destiny. 2012 marked the beginning of Jeffrey Herlings' assault on the record books. At just 17 years old, an age when most riders are still learning the craft, Jeffrey Herlings claimed his first world championship in the MX2 class. But this was no flash in the pan. In 2013, he repeated the success with his second title, proving that his first world championship wasn't an accident. His speed was breathtaking, his precision surgical, and his fearlessness absolute. He had become the young champion that the motocross world couldn't ignore. But the real statement came in 2016, when he secured the third MX2 world title. This wasn't just about winning anymore, this was about dominance. Herlings had established himself as the king of MX2 class, a testament of his consistency and his relentless pursuit of perfection. Chapter 3: The MXGP Challenge. 2017 represented the ultimate test for Jeffrey Herlings. The transition to the prestigious MXGP class, the premier division of motocross. This is where careers are made or broken, where the world's elite riders separate themselves from the merely talented. His debut year was promising. The motocross world was watching, waiting to see if the young Dutchman could compete with the established giants of the sport. Little did they know that Jeffrey Herlings wasn't just planning to compete, he was planning to conquer. Chapter 4: The Day America Met the Bullet. August of 2017. Crawforkville, Indiana, the Ironman International. This was supposed to be an American motocross at the finest. Home soil, home heroes, and home advantage. Eli Tomac, the American champion of the local favorites, was ready to prove that American produced the world's best riders, but Jeffrey Herlings had other plans. This was the first ever American race on unfamiliar terrain against riders who had spent their entire career mastering these tracks. Herlings was about to deliver one of the most stunning performances in the motocross history. Moto 1, the gate dropped, Jeffrey Herlings seized control with the precision of a surgeon and the aggression of a warrior. He grabbed the lead and began to pull away from the field. Gap by gap, second by second, he built an insurmountable advantage. When the checkered flag fell, he had left Eli Tomac, the American hero, 60 seconds in his wake. The crowd was stunned. The commentators were researching the superlatives they had never used before. But Herlings wasn't finished. Moto 2 was even more impressive. In the first few corners he crashed his bike, which put him in last place. No rider was ever able to come back from a last place in the modern era of motocross, let alone an unfamiliar terrain. But something magical happens. He rode with a level of perfection that left the competition demoralized. No mistakes, no hesitation, no mercy. A perfect sweep on the circuit he'd never seen before, against riders who call it home. The commentators could barely believe what they were witnessing. American fans, seeing this Dutch rider for the first time, stood in awe. Herlings hadn't just won, he had announced to the world that he was operating on a different level entirely. Even Eli Tomac, the man who was supposed to be Americans' answer to European dominance, had to acknowledge the obvious. He was on another level today. This wasn't just a victory. This was a declaration. Jeffrey Herlings wasn't just a European phenomenon. He was a global force of nature. Chapter 5. The 2018 masterpiece. If 2017 was Herlings' introduction to the MXGP greatness, then 2018 was his masterpiece in dominance. This was the year when Jeffrey Herlings didn't just break through in the MXGP class, he obliterated it. 17 victories out of 19 races. Let that sink in. In a sport where consistency is the king and perfection is nearly impossible, Herlings came as close to flawless as any rider in the history. His 2 non-victories, both second placed. With this devastating display of speed and consistency, he claimed his first MXGP world title and set the world record in the most GP victories in a single season. The motocross world had witnessed something unprecedented, a rider who had redefined what was possible in the sport. Chapter 6. Adversity and Resilience. But greatness isn't just measured in victories, it's measured in how champions respond to adversity. 2019 would test Jeffrey Herlings in ways that pure speed couldn't solve. A foot injury kept him out for the first 7 races of the season. For any rider, missing nearly a half a season would spell the end of the title hopes. But Herling isn't any rider. During a race in Latvia, disaster struck again. He broke his right ankle. An injury that would have ended most riders' season and possibly their career. The defending world champion was watching his title defense crumble from a hospital bed. But champions aren't defined not by their falls, but how they rise. Herlings returned for the final races of the season and promptly won 2 of the last 3 races. Injured, understandably rusty, and with nothing left to prove that season, he couldn't resist the urge to win. This was a display of determination and resilience that reminded everybody why he had reached the top of the sport. Chapter 7. National Glory. Motocross of the Nations 2019. Later that year, Jeffrey Herlings achieved something that transcended individual glory, leading the Dutch team at the Motocross of Nations. He delivered his country its first victory in this prestigious event in 73 years. This wasn't about personal achievements anymore. This was about national pride, about carrying the hopes and dreams of an entire nation. And when the pressure was on its highest, when the history was waiting to be made, Jeffrey Herlings delivered. The victory was a testament to his leadership, his class, and his reliability to perform when it mattered most. Chapter 8. Triumph and Tragedy. 2020 began as a fairy tale for Jeffrey Herlings. He dominated the opening 6 rounds, winning 4 of the 6 races. He seemed destined for another world championship, back to his devastating best. But fate had other plans. During a training session in Città di Venza, Italy, disaster struck with terrifying suddenness. Herlings crashed heavily and lay motionless for nearly 30 agonizing minutes. For those terrifying moments, the entire motocross world held its breath, fearing the worst. It was a moment that put everything into perspective, reminding everyone that behind the superhuman performance and record-breaking achievements was a human being pushing the absolute limits of what's physically possible. After a long rehabilitation period, Herlings made a difficult decision to end his season early, focusing entirely on his recovery. But those who knew him understood that this wasn't surrender. This was strategic retreat, and he would return stronger. Chapter 9. The Ultimate Comeback. And return he did. 2021 would go down as one of the most remarkable comeback stories in sports history. Despite dealing with a foot injury and a broken shoulder blade, injuries that would sideline most athletes, Jeffrey Herlings fought through one of the most intense championship battles in the MXGP history. He missed the Czech GP, but what followed was pure Herlings magic. 9 GP victories, 15 race wins, and 14 podium finishes. These weren't just numbers, they were statements of intent form from a champion refusing to be denied. The title fight came down to the wire. Herlings and Romain Febvre were separated by just 3 points heading into the final rounds. The tension was unbearable, the pleasure was immense. But when champions are tested, they respond. At Mantova, Italy, with the world watching and the championship on the line, Jeffrey Herlings delivered a performance for the ages. He won both motos, clinching his 5th world title in his 99 GP victory. This victory was about more than just statistics. It was proof of his resilience, his determination, and his unstoppable drive to win. He had faced adversity that would have broken lesser riders, and he had emerged stronger than ever. Chapter 10. Rest and Reflection. 2022 was a year of wisdom for Jeffrey Herlings. After a physical and emotional toll of his injury and comeback, he made a mature decision to take a complete break from racing. Even passing up opportunities to race in the MAA Pro Motocross, he focused entirely on healing, both physically and mentally. It was a year that reminded everyone that even champions are human, that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to rest, when to recover, and when to prepare for the battles ahead. Chapter 11. Making History. But Jeffrey Herlings wasn't finished making history. 2023 would see him achieve something that many thought impossible. During round 5 in Agueda, Portugal, Herlings claimed his 101th GP victory, equalizing the legendary Stefan Evert's all-time record. The motocross world stood in awe as they witnessed history in the making. But Herlings wasn't content with equality. At the very next GP in Spain, he broke that record with his 102nd victory, an unappreciated achievement in the history of the sports. He had officially become the most successful GP winner in the motocross history. Tragically, his season was cut short during a race in Germany, where he crashed and fractured his C5 vertebra. Later, in Arnhem, he suffered a broken collarbone. Once again, his championship aspirations were derailed by injuries. But by now, the motocross world understood that setbacks only made Jeffrey Herlings more dangerous. Chapter 12. The 2024 Renaissance. The season started slowly. In his first 5 rounds, he managed to get 1 podium finish, leading some to wonder if the injuries had finally taken their toll on the legendary rider. But those doubters had forgotten who they were dealing with. From round 6 to the end of the season, Herlings achieved 14 podiums, including victories in the rounds of 9, 12, 14 and 16. It was a reminder that writing off Jeffrey Herlings is done at one's own peril. He finished 3rd in the championship, a result that any other rider would consider the pinnacle of their career. But for Herlings, represented a platform to the future success. Additionally, he claimed national titles in both the British and Dutch motocross championships, proving that his hunger for the victory remains as strong as ever. Epilogue. The Eternal Championship. Jeffrey is more than just a motocross rider. He is a force of nature with over 100 GP victories, 5 world titles, and a career that has redefined what's possible in the motocross. He has earned his place among the greatest athletes in any sport. But perhaps his great achievements isn't found in the trophy case. It's in his ability to rise from every setback stronger than before. Every injury that should have ended his career only seemed to fuel his determination. Every defeat only made his eventual victories more meaningful. From that 14-year-old kid winning his first world championship to a seasonal veteran still chasing perfection, Jeffrey Herlings has shown us what it means to never give up, to never settle, to never stop pushing the boundaries of what's possible. In a sport where riders are measured by their ability to conquer fear, Jeffrey Herlings conquered something even greater. He conquered doubt, his own and everyone else's. The boy from the Netherlands who became the Bullet has written his name in the motocross history with letters of steel and spirit. And as long as there are gates to drop and championships to chase, the legend of Jeffrey Herlings will continue to inspire the next generation of riders to reach for greatness. Because in the end, Jeffrey Herlings didn't just master motocross, he redefined what mastery looks like.